Bryant. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. You know, we're covering cases coast to coast, gavel to gavel, and we have a brand new case for you. This is out of Tennessee. This is the case against Roy Coons. Now, he has been accused of killing 12-year-old Johanna Ortega. He lived 2 doors down. She sent a text to her mom saying, hey, somebody's at the door. An hour later, mom and sister find her dead in that house. Let's go to the opening statements now. This is Pam Anderson. That is ADA Pam Anderson. The audio is a little rough there from the courtroom. We're going to try and work on that, make things a little bit better if we can. Sometimes we don't have a ton of control over the technological issues, but we're going to work on that. In the meantime, I have with me 2 great guests. I have Norman Williams. I have Joseph Tully. And this is a brand new case, guys. This is a case, you know, it's just creepy when you think about a guy living 2 doors down from this 12-year-old girl who ends her life in such a horrible way and, you know, seemed to just slip away without being detected. What do you think about this?
Yeah, no, it's heartbreaking. You know, it's essentially your neighbor, someone that you probably asked to watch your kid when you went to the store, someone that you've been living next to for weeks, months, years.
Yeah, it's our understanding, Joseph, that they weren't exactly, you know, hanging out buddies. This older guy, he was 45 years old, I guess, a couple of years younger. At the time of the incident. The incident was in August 2017. So, you know, it wasn't suspicious that he might have been in or around the area where this young victim ultimately died. But I hear this is going to be a huge DNA case. What do you think about the way this case has been pursued by the prosecution?
Well, I think that there's a truism in that prosecutors always pursue positions of trust. So they tend to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more harsh if someone who is in a position of trust betrays that. And here, somebody knowing the family, somebody living 2 doors down where they would have access to observe, to maybe plot. I think that's where the prosecution is going to go with this. That this was a horrific betrayal of trust.
You know, there's some irony in this case, too, because the young girl's 12, and it was in August, so they had school even then. But she missed school because she had a skateboarding, a roller skating accident, hurt her ankle. So she was staying home while mom went to work. That almost seems like, was this a crime of opportunity, or did this guy know that?
Yeah, it seems like there might be an element of premeditation here. You know, she's home, he knows it. I mean, you know what's going on in your neighborhood. And it's not like living in an apartment building where you don't physically see your neighbors and your fellow residents coming in and out of their apartments. We're talking about a trailer home, right?
Yeah, mobile home park, right?
Mobile home,
yeah,
so
pretty tight confines.
Yeah, you see everything. You can figure out things. You can sit on your porch and figure out who's working, who's not, who has a sick family member. There's a lot of things you can glean from just observing.
Joseph, this is not a death penalty case, even though they have the death penalty in Tennessee. They have chosen not to seek the death penalty. They're looking for life imprisonment, and the charges pending are basically first-degree murder, felony murder, attempted rape of a child, and aggravated burglary. Again, they're not going for the death penalty. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that they're trying to be conservative about pursuing the death penalty. Again, the death penalty has to be for the worst of the worst. And here, maybe they're drawing the line at there was no rape. This was an attempted rape, but there was no rape. So this is a child murder, and as horrific as that is, maybe they're drawing the line at it's not the worst of the worst.
Boy, that's an interesting line to draw there. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back to that courtroom. Hopefully we can tweak the audio a bit. We can get back into those opening statements in Tennessee versus Roy Coons. Brand new trial being covered right here on the Law and Crime Network. I told you this was going to be very DNA heavy. Yeah, this is the case in Tennessee against Roy Coons for the death of 12-year-old Johanna Ortega. The details of this case, this ADA has been laying out, but she's really been focusing on the DNA, which leads my guest Norman Williams to say, must not be any real direct evidence of this guy doing the crime or being in the area.
Yeah, she's spending way too much time explaining away DNA, how it works, and as if she's an expert herself, which I'm sure she's not, no more than you or I are from trying cases. But it just makes me, it makes me know that there's no eyewitnesses. There's no one that's going to say that they saw Coons go into the mobile home, exit the mobile home. No one heard screams, even though it's let's say between 5:30 and 6 o'clock on a summer evening. People are home. They should be home from work, some of them. There should be somebody around.
Out and about. It's, you know, the weather's nice.
But she's discussing alleles. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's tough enough sometimes when the experts go through that. She's definitely laid a foundation for what could glaze this jury over. But that's, this is her approach. She knows how important the DNA is, so she's giving them a little taste of what's to come. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you're suggesting, you ask her what time it is, she tells you how to build a watch.
Exactly.
A little too much.
A little too much. She's being too apologetic. And she's also, in the sense, as you mentioned this earlier, that it sounds like she's talking down to her audience.
Yeah, kind of like lowering the level of the conversation, almost assuming they don't get it.
Right, and this isn't 1950. Everybody has televisions. Everybody has watched episodes about DNA evidence. They might not understand the intricacies of it, but they at least have an appreciation for the fact that it's a useful tool.
What we're going to learn in this case, whether the jury does or not, is that this particular defendant, Roy Coons, has a massive history. How about 30 convictions of various crimes prior to the one he's now on trial for? We're going to get into this case in detail. This is a brand new case here on the Law and Crime Network. Let's take a quick break and come back. We'll have the defense opening coming up. So there's David Hopkins, the defense attorney, short and sweet, hitting the high points and really attacking the DNA that the prosecution says makes their case. Norman Williams, you hear you liked his brief but maybe effective opening?
I think it was a very effective opening. A lot of times, defense, we choose to not open, or we do what's called a non-opening opening, right? Something that doesn't promise anything and only attacks what the prosecution has said in their opening. But, he's kind of hit at the obvious. Like, she's droning on and on and on about the DNA, but let me tell you what she's not saying. So I think it's going to be very effective. I think that one thing he said, that's true. When you mention DNA, people start to rise up in their seats and start to shift, and he had to get them to sit back down and put their backs
just relax, everybody. Just relax. There's going to be more to this case than what the prosecution just told you, which is DNA, 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 and oh, by the way, DNA. And there's a good reason for it being there. What do you think? I mean, this is all about transfer DNA then.
Right.
If Roy Coons, the defendant, and his father have been in this mobile home thousands of times, I don't know if I would have said that, maybe hundreds of times. Thousands sounds like an overreach, but let's just say they've been doing stuff. They're kind of handymen in the area. So that means that the defense is basically suggesting that any DNA found on Joanna Ortega, the 12-year-old that died in this case, was just because she rolled around in some leftover DNA.
Right. They're going to try to claim that it was transfer DNA, which might be a little tough, as you said, rolling around in it. But the other thing that the experts are going to say is, we cannot determine when the samples were deposited. We have no idea when the DNA from either of the Coons or any of the other individuals that they identified, we have no idea when that DNA was deposited and how long it's been there. We have no idea.
One thing I think is going to be interesting is we just heard the defense attorney say the dad, the father of Roy Coons, is going to testify. Always interesting when one of the parents gets on the stand in a case where their kid is sitting there at the defense table, right?
That's right, because you figure a parent will say anything to protect their kid. But, I mean, it does sound like there's a very reasonable explanation as to why the Coons juice is all over the mobile home.
Yeah, so unless Dad goes too far and says he shaved off some DNA himself and sprinkled it about, Dad's probably going to be somewhat believable, but I can't wait to find out.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, sir. Norman Williams, always a pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mike.
Okay, so we're going to continue with this case against Roy Coons. They are going to be wrapping up for the day very soon as we are here. Don't forget, coming up at 5 o'clock is the Daily Debrief with Aaron Keller. I'm Michel Bryant, and don't forget we also have an update for you, the Epstein case. That's coming up here very briefly, and also what's going on with Mr. Spacey. So have a great evening. See you next time here on the Law and Crime Network.